this conversation on Black women and that strong Black woman schema or that archetype, I wanted to talk about what I'm wearing most days. I have, and I'll do a little screenshot, but this is Erin Hibiscus Palm. And this one is a Wellows brand, and you can pretty much only get this in southern states. I used to live in Arlington, Texas for a couple years, and there is a beauty supply store down the street from where I used to live, and they had this fragrance body oil, and this ish is amazing. So I'll put some pictures up, but let me tell you about Erin Hibiscus Palm. Erin Hibiscus Palm is something that is absolutely divine. I mean, if you've ever walked down south and had been walking and smelled the full bloom of marigolds and the full bloom of just flowers in the most warmest climate where it's a little too hot to handle, but then it's wet and it's very sticky. And I feel like this reminds me of that. Now, granted, that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm talking about the flowers, not you. I'm talking about where like the water and the aroma just fills up the space that you're walking in because it is such a fragrant flower. This hibiscus palm, not really sure how hibiscus smells, but it almost smells like that frag panini per se, and it smells like a hint of jasmine. And then it also smells like there's something sweet there, but I don't know. It's almost like a sugar versus a vanilla, if you get my drift. So, I mean, it has almost like a solar, intoxicating, tropical vibe. And I absolutely love the way this smells. This smell is something that stays on for hours. It doesn't move, it doesn't budge. You put a little oil with it if you want to, a little Vaseline if that's how you want to do it. But I put my, body oil with it. And it almost gives me, since this is like a floral, sweet floral scent, and it's a warm floral, this gives me that like extra sweet edge that I like because I am a gourmand girly. Like me and gourmands, like I like Mahad Casanad. I like what's another really sweet scent? And they're in my head. I like Devotion. That's a really sweet lemony scent. And it smells like a lemon strawberry souffle to me. So I like very gourmandy scents, something that's very hot, like strong on the sweet, but not like kiddish. And this gives me just the amount that I need being a grown woman, right? Being sexy. When it comes to the body oil, like I said, I found this at a beauty supply store. And I was a little afraid because I was like, there's no way this is gonna smell good, right? And it's not good. It doesn't moisturize. Let's just put it out there. This does not moisturize anything. It is literally sitting on your body for fragrance purposes only. So don't think you can just put this on and walk out and you're going to be ashy. Okay. When you walk outside. So please put on some Vaseline, some lotion with this. And then if you want to take it up another sweet notch, which you would be just glowing, but you can mix it with that purple bottle that you used to find at Target. Now I know we don't shop at Target right now. You might be able to find it on Amazon, but with EOS, their brand, the purple bottle, that vanilla, I think it's like vanilla cashmere or something. But anyways, it's the purple bottle. It's by EOS. Whew. It's just vanilla strawberry floral souffle, like hands down. So anyways, but yeah, let me know if you guys, want me to do the perfume reviews like with these, because I kind of want to make it lighthearted because it's mental health, right? Like we're talking about mental health. And sometimes it can be a place that is really dark because we all deal with some type of discrimination, discrepancies, and biases that people and have against us and we have against other people. So mental health is something that is very important to talk about and keep in people's mind. But let's go ahead and start with this video. And I'm going to be interrupting a couple things just because I want to be able to kind of, if something reminds me, I want to be able to kind of catch it right then. So let's talk about it.
Slowly starting to hear more women like ourselves talk about mental health. And I know you have all heard the phrase, the strong Black woman. Trisha, when you hear the term strong Black woman, that's your reaction.
I reject it. I dislike it greatly.
Yeah.
I reject it. I know that it has its roots in slavery, in plantation labor, chattel slavery. It is this stereotype that was placed upon Black women to box us in, to manipulate us, to make us not see ourselves as full divine beings, to push us. Strong Black woman to me allows so much time for abuse and manipulation, for not resting, for burning yourself out. Like, we really have to look at what's systematically happening that's making us be so, traumatized by our pace of life. And so the strong Black woman has never been anything I've ever related with. Superwoman, I want rest, I want ease, I need help, help me now. I want help. And so I really like to dismantle and pull back the veil around that term. Like, we shouldn't be claiming it.
It makes me think of a Malcolm X quote. 60 years ago, Malcolm X said, the most disrespected woman in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. 6 decades later, there are many people who would say not much has changed. And so when you think about the strong...
So let me just kind of pause it there, because that quote, I love Malcolm X, and that quote was something that Malcolm X made people aware of some of the things that were happening within America. And it wasn't just like, let freedom ring, let's be nonviolent, like, his other counterpart was doing, MLK. But it was like, hey, we have to be able to take things by force. And these are the problems that we're facing. And I know, especially working in corporate America, it's a battle in itself. And I hope to have one of my friends on here who's worked with me and when he's working for the state. But it's like, it is a battle within itself. Like, when people hear us as Black women, or just Black people in general, just complain. And I don't necessarily identify this 100%, because I know that the name Black is very disenfranchising. And it's something that they have changed our Black, white, that to me is a social economic status, has nothing to do with race. There is no Black race. When you get your DNA tested, they don't say you're Black. They actually say this is DNA from here, this is DNA from there, in multiple places, especially if you have family members like your mom and your dad who also give their DNA. They can tell you where your DNA comes from, but it doesn't say Black, or it doesn't say white, But I digress. But when it comes to working in corporate America, it is very hard to show up as your authentic self. And especially with someone, I have locks now, but before I used to wear wigs all the time because I was just afraid to be myself. And I wasn't comfortable walking in and someone commenting on my hair, commenting on what I did with my skin, or all those different things. But besides that, it was if you spoke up, you were seen as aggressive, or you were seen as over the top. And I am a number one person to speak up. But when I don't, truthfully, it's not even in my best interest. In my last position, I held a management position, and there was a lot of gossiping, backbiting. There was a lot of, I had a manager that I truly felt was quite racist. Yeah, I can tell that person, because of who they hired, and also because they never worked with, nobody else looked like me that was directly under them. They're complete opposite. And then also they just didn't like me from the beginning. And they blamed it on really not trusting me, even though I was hired. And of course they didn't hire me. They got into that position but it was a battle the whole time I was working there. Even when I voiced concerns, like no one took my concerns seriously. They were like, "Oh, you're fine. Like you guys are just disagreeing and blah blah blah." But Lachelle, she is your upper management, so even though you're a supervisor, she's allowed to supersede you. And it was like, yeah, but you're not getting the fact that she's making my life quite difficult. And it's difficult for me to run my team as a supervisor if, in fact, this person is not allowing me to breathe. Like it was just down, like they were just on me every second. Like everything I did could never be right in their eyes. And I'm a big person in reframing your mind. So of course I felt like I was doing everything I could, because I'm like, well, you might not like the way I'm doing things, but this is the complaints I'm hearing from my employees, and these are things I want to change. And believe me, it was like a glass ceiling where I can just kind of look up and see the changes that could be made. But because people above me did not want those changes to be done, or maybe they just didn't take the claim serious, like it was hands down, like it was very hard. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, and maybe I'm just coming from a perspective of someone who's dealt with people's personal biases when they see me. I've had women come up to me in my past jobs and say, when you walked in, you look like you just owned everything, or the reason why I tried to get you fired was because I felt that you were too this and too that. And I'm like, wait, hold up. I'm just trying to learn. I'm not trying to take anybody else's spot. Whatever is meant for me, I'm gonna have. If I wanted your spot, I would have already applied to something and been in that spot. But I'm here because I'm trying to learn. So that was a big problem I faced from women outside of my cultural group. And then even women within my cultural group, that was a struggle too, because there was times where once or twice, not too many times that I have battled with women of color, but once or twice here in Washington State, especially just recent, I just wasn't liked by someone who was working in the same, like who was not in the same field. She was working the front desk. It was just like, girl, you don't like me for what? What is going on? Like she would yell, cuss, fuss, and I would voice concerns, say, hey, let me talk to her. And I would try to show empathy, but it wasn't given back. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Strong Black woman trope and the impacts of that, and how do you feel about that?
I 100% believe that we need to remove the idea that every Black woman must be a strong Black woman. Mm-hmm. The problem is that I don't think we've yet decided what Black women can be in the space that's left behind from that space. And the idea is, be yourself. Who is allowed to be themselves in this world, especially Black women? And I have to also highlight the fact that as a Black trans woman, a girl denied of my girlhood in Birmingham, Alabama, and growing up, and the model of womanhood that I tried to emulate and follow was the strong Black woman. And now I'm suddenly in this new space. Do we have space for soft Black women? For emotional Black women? For Black women who aren't really good at their jobs, but are great as people and human beings? Are we prepared to make space, and not just make space for, but honor the humanity of Black women who don't really have much to contribute as far as a product, yet have so much to contribute as far as people?
Dr. Williams, how often are these topics brought up in your office?
These conversations, I'd like to say are common, but they're not. I was speaking at an engagement a few weeks ago, and a woman, people come up and they ask you questions later. And she said, I think what you said was amazing, but can I ask you something? Who takes good care of you? And I said, you can't ask me that. She said, yes, I'm asking you. And I said, I can't say. When we're talking about just taking that deep exhale, that's something that is not common. It's something that is like, okay, I'll find a special day.
When I talk about resting and the way I'm framing this work, it cannot happen by ourselves. No. Community care is right up there. We scream self-care, self-care, self-care. And it's like literally all you hear in the media is self-care, self-care, self-care. And I really want us to begin to shift towards thinking about community care. Those systems do not exist right now. Like, why are we like this? Why aren't we caring for each other, you know?
Well, because we're afraid of each other. If we're not self-hating, then we're hating on you.
Do you think it's the idea of hurt people hurt people?
I think it comes from a few sources. I think self-hatred, absolutely. Jealousy, absolutely. My grandmother used to talk about crabs in the barrel.
Yeah, we've heard that.
We go up and you keep pulling us down.
Yeah.
I think.
Let's just go. That's kind of what I mentioned before, where you are dealing with someone who is supposed to identify with your culture, like, hey, sis, like culture, right? And they are not as receiving to you because you are coming in with light happiness and are a pretty confident woman. And that other person who sees you is not. And you can tell that they're going through a lot because they're coming to work drunk, or you can tell they're going through a lot because they're showing up late and they're half-assing, their time at work. They're getting mad at everything that everybody does, especially you, and they've targeted in on you because of who you are. And I wanted to make this clear. I don't ever want to blame someone else for things that happen to myself, right? But I do have to realize, like, being in this stage of my life, I am someone who observes myself first and thinks about what I could do better. And then if I see that the other person is showing signs of stress, trauma, anxiety, possibly depression by the way they're acting and the way they're interacting with me and other people, I'm telling you, it is more than just jealousy and envy. It is that person really not being happy with themselves at all. I have come into situations where I'm happy, and most of the time when I go to work, I am happy. I'm ready to take on the everything that happens that day. I'm ready for the challenges. If things didn't work as well the other day or prior because of just maybe a couple things I could have worked on, I try to figure out a way to make it better the next time I show up. And I show up on time. I show up as my true authentic self. Like, you get me and this is who I am. Now, I do try to be a little more political than I should because, of course, the politics thing, when you're in corporate America, you got to watch your mouth. You can't just talk any old kind of way, right? And plus, like, just your professional stance in the world is a lot is depending on that because it is your job. So I show up as my work authentic self, I guess you can say. And when she was talking about like the crab in a barrel mentality, man, it's such a crab in a barrel mentality. I have not had too many coworkers go back and forth with me in my past. Thank goodness. There's only been a couple times where it's been like a couple coworkers that have like really like disenfranchised me in a sense, right? And I'm like, well, how can I fit in? But I realized I never fitted in when I was young. I was one of those ones that were, in the back, and I would just do my thing, and I would have a couple of friends that were close, and those were my good friends. Never was a popular person, so I didn't expect myself to be popular as being an adult, right? But you realize that like the people who tend to have this mentality, sometimes they look like you. Sometimes they have similar cultural background as yourself. And when they say all skin folk and kin folk, so for real. Because I know that if they're coming from a place of negativity and coming from a place of being unhealed, and having lack of self-aware, they're not self-aware, then that's very dangerous for everybody involved, because they're going to be blaming everybody else except themselves. And so, yeah, that mentality comes from just more than jealousy. It comes from the lack of self-awareness.
They may also think there's not enough room for all of us.
The scarcity.
Because most of the time, you end up in a place, whether it's a workplace or whatever, you look around, if there's someone else, well, there's only room for one of us.
Exactly, so not enough room for us. Each one of us, we don't know what our breaking point is. We look like we're all okay.
My naivete is that I just inherently believe that if I look at you, if I look at you, if I look at you, and you look like me, it don't matter if there are slight differences or whatever. If you black like we black, if we black, we good. Even if you can't see yourself in me the way I see myself in you, I will grant you that humanity, and I will still work for you. I will still fight for you.
You know,
That's so funny because that is how I am too. If I see someone who shares some type of phenotype with me or is culturally the same as me or physically the same, like because they have like from first point of view, they remind you of just yourself. I think it's like you're willing to work with that person because I do think it's a sentiment within the Black community is that we tend to trust our own people first and foremost. And then any outsider, you're going to have to work a little harder, right? Culturally speaking, yeah, we have leaders that sometimes are not the best leaders, but because they identify as Black or they identify as Niji or Indigenous, I think that we tend to give them a lot of grace. And giving someone else a lot of grace, if that person does not like you or they don't want to give you grace, you are only digging yourself a hole.
We haven't even gotten to thriving yet.
No.
How do we thrive? How do you talk people into thriving?
Right. Come on. Come on.
Here, so
My grandmother,
right.
she didn't think about her life. Neither did my mom.
Yeah.
And so this is really a new concept
It is.
for us, even in this time in our lives. So when we talk about trying to thrive, I think the underlying basis for all of this is that we inherently like who we are.
That's good.
And we will fight for who we are. That's how you thrive.
Being proud.
And I wanted to end there because I wanted to talk about the ended on a good note as well. But I wanted to just emphasize that there is a lot of research when it comes to that strong Black woman concept and how it has an effect on our physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. It puts us in a box that gives us a role to play as if we're in a scripted story. But that is something that is detrimental, although we hold it at high value. The couple of the articles, which was a lot, but I chose a couple articles, just to make it quick, that talk about that when it comes to our mental health and being this strong and Black and being a woman, it is something that we hold valuable, but it can really beat us down health-wise. It says that we could be adversely affected by this schema. And there needs to be more data given and, of course, research and studied, because I don't think that women of color get enough. I don't really think they get enough scholarly articles when it comes to just that concept of a woman and being strong outside of oppression, outside of gender, outside of this outside of her health, outside of obesity, outside of certain chronic illnesses. Because they focus so much on the chronic illness, they'd be like, well, this is a reason why we saw some correlations. And the correlation can be strong or it can be, weak, right? Of a quote unquote strong Black woman is really defeating the purpose of us getting the help that we need, because we are not able to be heard in the doctor's office or in the office in general. And because we're not heard, but we're also trying to put up a strong front, united front, that we are okay and that everything's fine, but we just are uncomfortable. A lot of times we just don't get the help we need. I know this is something that's happened in not only just mental health, but with, gosh, diabetes, cancer, kidney problems, liver problems. They always want to say it's because of your eating habits or it's because of what you're doing. That's the reason why you're suffering from this chronic disorder. But a lot of times it can just be the oppression and stressors and the application of how we perceive the information that is coming to us, right? So let's say that we're in a situation where we're always being told that we're just not doing something well. And then we strive harder. You're still not doing it well. Then we strive harder. You're not doing well. Then you keep striving. And eventually you're like, F it. I've been striving for a minute. They can't see my worth. So you leave, depending on your behavior, or you stay and you remain stressed out. And then your health starts to fail. Because even though they say like something's like the number one killer, it is stress. I mean, heart disease, it could be suicide, it could be everything depending on the age range. But what is really killing like people in general is stress, because stress leads to your body being imbalanced. And that imbalance leads to chronic conditions that eventually could be a disorder or some type of dis-ease. So really understanding that we have to do away with that, normalizing that strong woman type of attitude. Like she said, be self-aware, know what you need, advocate for yourself, make sure you make your needs known. And if someone is not taking your concerns serious, then you need to find somewhere else to be, or you need to go to someone else who's going to get the job done. I know that if I would have continued going down the path of some of my positions I've been in the past, I would have been so sick. But I choose myself and I choose my health, and I choose not to hold things in. And I choose not to cookie code or sugarcoat how someone's treating me. No, because the one thing you can say about me is you can't say that I didn't let you know that how I felt about you, or I didn't let you know my concerns. So that's very serious. So hopefully this like opens up the dialogue for how we should be in life. If you can't get out your situation, then it's good to start looking at your situation in a different light. And that's where the reframing comes in, because it changes your behavior. If you have to practice self-care throughout the day while you're working because you're in a situation that is stressful, then practice self-care and make that a part of your daily operations. That time for yourself, whatever it may be, do that and do it consistently. And know that your why is because you want to live a long life. Your why is because you want to live long enough to see retirement, or to spend time with your babies and your grandbabies, or whatever it is, right? I want to spend time so I can enjoy my husband, whatever it is, child. I mean, but know your why and understand the reason why you're going through those things is not for you to give up, but it's to make the concerns known so there's a change. Because things don't change by us just simply just voicing it. We have to change it by putting the steps in. And ma'am, you might have to write a little strategy for them, like write a little 1-page outline of how they can be more culturally competent in the workplace. Have more forums. Work with diversity. Well, diversity and inclusion might not be there, but you yourself can do that within your team. because if that's a concern that's not only happening with you, chances are it's happening with someone else as well. And they're suffering in their own way. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for listening in.